Now we have one more question from the Columbia Global Center in Mumbai, India.
My name is Mansi Choksi. I'm calling from the Columbia Global Centers in Mumbai, and here is a question for Dean Wheatley. In India, a lot of talk, there's been a lot of effort in including the residents of slums into the sort of discourse for slum rehabilitation. While there are multidisciplinary workshops that are being conducted to sort of get their inputs on what their vision is for their own housing. The problem is that these slums are built on properties that are worth millions of dollars. So how do we reconcile interests with agendas?
Okay, so
it's a very interesting question. What do you do when the slums are located in prime real estate areas? What to do about this? How to reconcile different interests?
Well, I think this is again the question of the right to the city. This is actually where Mumbai and Rio have more or less the same situation, because probably those are the two cities in the world in which you can see the super rich and the super poor absolutely side by side, again in an image. So it's a kind of image of inequity. And of course the problem is the line between the two. The problem is the line which is a line that keeps one group on one side and another group on the other. To call favela, which has an extraordinary view of the river, expensive real estate, is already to steal the favela from the people living in it, because already you imagine that they are gone and now you have a condominium. So of course I think that there should be the rights of occupation, that the living in a very highly organized favela on the side of a beautiful mountain, it is your city in this moment. So I think what happens should be, of course, some very complex negotiation of the relationship between private and public, between access, openness, transparency, and so on. And I think the idea that slums or favelas occupy expensive real estate, that's in a sense a kind of criminal approach to the issue. The issue is more that you are so lucky that those people are right there in the heart of the city. How can you take advantage of this enormous asset? So the asset is not the real estate value, but the human value of this astonishing group of people that were much more inventive. I mean, you have to be more intelligent to make a house on the side of a hill where there could be a landscape than to buy a condominium. So probably on the side of the hill you have more intelligence. And so therefore the question is, how can you bring the intelligence from favela, from complex social life, and make it help build the city and change what is the understanding of real estate value? Of course, I'm speaking on the optimistic side, but I think you have to look at favela and say, here is one of the greatest assets of the city. The people that have lived there and contributed to the city are crucial parts of the city. I think maybe we will develop a different concept of real estate in the future. It will be part of what you say about a new definition of government.
I mean, first, we are proud of having a city where we don't hide the poor, we don't hide the problems. I mean, most of the cities that you visit in the world, I mean, the poor are very far away from the touristic view, and this is not possible in Rio. I mean, there are favelas and this contrast between the rich and poor, they are everywhere. And this is something that's, I think this city decided that long ago. I mean, if you look at the programs that the City Hall has been developing before I was mayor, I mean, if you look at projects like Favela Bairro, neighborhood, favela neighborhood, something like that, translation. It was a project that said, okay, we have the favelas, so let's urbanize them and give the right incentives and give the right services and deliver everything that's needed for them to become a neighborhood. And this mix of people, this is one of the greatest assets of Rio. That's why we call Rio a very democratic city with great open spaces where people can meet. And you cannot see these social differences when you go to the streets or to the beach in Rio. And so, obviously, as Mark said, we're looking at optimist point of view here. There's lots to do in that, and it's not easy to deal with that. So there's a situation going on in Rio now. I mean, most of the favelas were the violent places of the city. They became, especially in the noble neighborhoods of Rio, they were pacified. And they are becoming very expensive places. And so rich boys are going there and buying the houses of the poor people. And the poor people are kind of moving because they want the money. I mean, people go there and buy it. So, I mean, these are the challenges of a city. I mean, how can you see favelas as an asset? How can you deliver services? How can you build infrastructure? But by the end of the day, how can you keep that as a mix of people? Because if you bring great services, if you do all the infrastructure, they become a great real estate business. And probably the rich boys are going to go there and buy. And that's happening to Vidigal, that's happening to Chapéu Mangueira and a lot of the favelas in the city of Rio. I mean, sometimes I wish I was like Fidel Castro here, or saying, you're not going to sell your house, you're going to live there forever. But I mean, I cannot do that. And people ask me to do that, but I cannot do it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.